cancer is 1 in 2 people now, and breast cancer is rising, which we should be able to prevent. And our medical system is not preventive, proactive, precise, participatory. It's none of those, and it needs to be all of that. And so doctors, health practitioners need to say to their patients, how are we going to prevent cancer?
There's just so much fear around the current state of health and where we are. And I love the way you're saying this, where it's much more empowering. This is kind of the reality, but we have the tools. We know what to do if you're finding the right information. And it comes down to the fact, are you willing to slow down enough to see it for what it is and commit to being healthier in these day-to-day moments?
Doctors have to now learn conventional medicine with new functional integrative medicine, which is combining of what you learned in medical school and training, and then learning this new delivery of medicine that's being birthed. And it's being birthed out of necessity because we're the world's leaders in chronic illness.
Dr. Connealy, welcome to the Meat Mafia podcast.
Great to be here.
It's exciting to have you in Austin.
Yes.
We were just chatting. Your daughter moved down here a few months ago, and you were saying it felt like maybe a few years ago that she moved down here. Time flies.
Yes.
We were talking in the parking lot. I asked you if you ever expected to have such a large social media following while you were studying medicine in school. And I just think it's so incredible that we have people with your credentials able to have access to distribution of information like we have today. And it's just so refreshing scrolling through your feed and seeing the information you're putting out there and how you're using your platform. So I just appreciate getting to know more about you and what the things that you're working on from a cancer perspective, but also just, the practical things that you're putting out there for everyday people.
Right. It's interesting because I always tell everyone that self-care is the new healthcare. And there's just so much you can do yourself to control the outcome of your personal self. And we've gotten away from like nature and the natural biology of life and honoring that miracle we get to live in. If we were all born with knowing that we're a miracle of healing every single day, and if we thought what we do every day matters, because it's always your life is an accumulation of events, all right? Whether it's physical events, psychological, emotional, spiritual, it all matters and it all adds up to the person you are. And so I think if we could teach mothers, like from the time they think about having a child, like what that intention is with their husband or significant other or whatever they decide, but really set that intention and think, am I the best receptacle of creating that miracle? And then we would probably have less health challenges and health outcomes of babies if we really prepared the mother on all levels and the significant other, and then really thought about, because a child from the in utero to about 5 or 6 years is when the most significant things happen with the baby, the brain, the immune system, everything. And so if we could change, I think, a lot by really educating the mother-to-be. And because we're living, unfortunately, in the great poisoning. And so we all have poisons in our, toxins in our body. We know that by blood test. We know that by environmental pollutant panels. We know that by all the studies that they draw your blood. They look at the placenta. They look at the breast milk. And we have a lot of toxicity. And Rachel Carson wrote the book Silent Spring. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yes. And she talked about that, and everybody poo-pooed her. But now everything she's writing is coming to life. And all of us just need to get educated. We need to become aware. We need to cooperate, collaborate to help each other to be the best version of ourselves.
There's a lot to unpack there. And I feel like with what you're saying, it's painting this picture of intentionality, like you said, and having awareness. Do you feel like we're entering that a new phase of health? Like just, I don't know, it seems like something has shifted where people are more focused on what they should be doing when it comes to just being aware and being plugged in with their health. I'm curious your take on just kind of like where we're at with the MAHA movement and just this reawakening around being healthy and getting healthy.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I started my practice 39 years ago.
Wow.
And I started with a nutritionist. Well, she was a dietitian. And I was teaching people how to live their life with sleep, water, eating, doing food journals, exercise, okay? And I am happy that now all of these young people, I feel like the young people are really questioning everything, and they're the change makers. And not that there aren't older people doing it, because look at Robert Kennedy and look at other people. There's other older people because we need the wisdom and the experience of older people also. So I think there's this big merge of the young with the wisdom of the older people coming together to change the future of health and humanity. So I'm happy that now I feel like I started saying probably a dozen years ago that we're in a 911 emergency.
Right.
And I felt like, okay, I was alone, but now I feel like, gosh, we have so many people on so many levels, whether it doesn't matter what they're doing, but they're all creating this awareness and really an awakening of where we are and what we need to do to move forward. Just like you were saying, the ranchers, okay? Because we're all in this, we all have this magical piece in creating, beautiful humanity. We all have a role to play, okay? And whether it's a meditation guru or a cold plunge guru or a sauna guru, right? Or the ranchers or the people making clothes or whatever it is. And I see how like now we have an opportunity. There's a crisis, but there's an opportunity to really change the future.
I love that. It's such a good reframe because, I think a lot of people see these cataclysmic events happen like COVID or even economic stuff like the tariffs, and they think, oh my gosh, this is going to crush everything.
Right.
But if you're, someone of the spirit of this is actually an opportunity to play a part in something bigger and actually create some change, it can be really powerful. I love what you were saying about just prenatal birth, and I feel like this is kind of like such an interesting window to look into just as far as health goes, because it feels like the canary in the coal mine for what's going on generally. Like we're seeing lower and lower fertility rates, guys and girls, birth rates lower. I think all of these are signs that our overall health is in crisis mode, 911 mode. I'm curious if you're someone who's, in that phase, like looking to really revamp their health, haven't had kids yet. What are kind of the things that you prescribe? You mentioned kind of those basic foundational things, but if someone's looking to really like turn the screws on getting themselves healthy, like what should they be doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always say the children are the canaries in the coal mines. And I don't think people realize that United States is 5% of the world population. We rank 47th in the world in healthcare. We spend 2.5 times more than any other country. And our children, our babies, autism is all-time high. I know in California, I don't know, they said boys 1 in 12, but it's exponentially. I think I read a chapter of autism when I went to medical school. Now there's libraries on autism. Then you look at the developmental delays, you look at the elementary kids who have one or more chronic illnesses. You look at teenagers, suicide's like the highest rate of death in teenagers. Now, how's that possible? And then we have 30-year-olds with cancer. And so you're right. They're all telling us something, and we all need to take a stand. And I feel like we need more people taking a stand because this is an alarm bell. It is a 911. And I think the biggest thing is, one, really educate yourself. Don't take everything for face value. Like, don't just, don't even, I always tell patients, don't just take what I say. But probably the main cornerstones is, one, is sleep. 50% of the population doesn't sleep. Your day starts with when you go to sleep and how much. And you need probably about 8 hours. And there's a great book called Lights Out, and that was written a long time ago. And, people a long time ago slept 10 hours. Now, obviously, they were physically much more, they were doing everything themselves, right?
Right.
And so, but people are sleep deprived. I would say extremely. Young people, older people. And I tell patients, the first thing I have to do is fix your sleep. And because if you don't sleep, the repair, regeneration doesn't happen. Magic happens when we all sleep. And I personally had sleep disorder once I went through menopause, and then learned a lot about the things that you need to tweak. But then, so get your sleep. Then drink water, and always get water that's purified, even if you have to buy an inexpensive water purifier, but you need to purify your water because water is, if you look at the Environmental Working Group website, they have, according to every place where you live, the toxins in the water. There's no safe level of heavy metals or toxins in your water. So you need to invest in some kind of water purifier, but also you have to think about your shower. So I tell patients to really invest in either a whole house system or a shower filter, because your skin absorbs way more than your mouth. Your mouth absorbs about 10%, but your skin absorbs 30%. So you've got to think about that. Then you've got to eat foods that nourish, strengthen, and heal your bodies. We were talking earlier that food is medicine, medicine is food. And you have to look at your food as a QR code, turning all your cells on and all the machinery of your body on. Whether it's the cell membrane, whether it's the cytoplasm, whether it's the nucleus, whether it's the organelles or the mitochondria. That needs to be, you got to think about, you want to nourish every cell. So if you think macaroni and cheese is going to nourish your cell, it's probably not. Or Oreo cookies. So if you think about that, I'm not saying you're never going to have a cheat. Like yesterday, I had 3 French fries. Okay, so there's going to be, it's probably not cooked in the greatest oil, probably.
Yeah.
But
it's okay.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good, right? So, because when I love French fries. Okay.
Yeah.
And but when I make them at home, of course, I cook them with olive oil, etc. But really think about what you are putting in and on your body, okay? Because as I said earlier, whatever you're putting on your body goes in your body. So we need to be mindful of the shampoos, the lotions and potions, and for women, makeup. And so men don't use as much cosmetics as women do. But we need to think about that. And there is, if you look up anything today, there's a natural good version for everything that's at the store that's not good for you. Okay?
Yeah.
So you really need to really think about where you're getting your food. Like just before I left, I was in a co-op and I bought my grass-fed beef. I bought my cream from a, rancher, and my butter and my cottage cheese, and like everything is like this beautiful, straight from the source.
Right.
And I would encourage people to do that. And then obviously there's farmers markets. And you can really turn anything. Like when I had my children, I made zucchini carrot bread with protein powder and good sugars and good everything, right? So you can turn anything into good, right?
Yeah.
And then we have 800 muscles, and sitting is the new smoking. And look at every opportunity to move. And whether it's washing clothes, washing dishes, running down to get something, anything, and then try to walk, walking. Obviously, I think people need to do weights, but you don't need a gym. You can do push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, and all kinds of physical muscle activity with your body without going to a gym. But invest in your health, because there's community at the gym. So, and you encourage each other.
Yeah,
so
you make it fun.
You make it fun. So, and you look forward to seeing the people you see at the gym. Like if you work at 6 a.m., you see those people. And if it's after work, you see those people.
Yeah.
And community is the guru of the future. We feed off each other, right? We feed off each other's energies. And so, but try to move any time, any opportunity that you can. Then I think that we need to focus on our emotional state. And we've all every one of us had a journey, had a life journey. And it was not a straight line. It was full of curveballs and detours. There's people that were traumatized. There's a lot of people that had sexual abuse. There's people who grew up with violent parents. Lots of maybe parents that were emotionally unavailable. But in this day and time, there is so much about that. And we always like to do emotional work with each patient. And it doesn't have to be like years of therapy, because if you're doing years of therapy, you're not getting better.
Yeah.
You should be able to get better in a shorter period of time. And there's meditation options. There's so many apps now. There are so many ways to set your mind. But probably that's the number one thing before you get out of bed, is setting your mind to a positive mental attitude and be in gratitude for small, little things. And if you live your entire day in gratitude, literally every single day, your body will change. I tell people we become what we think about most of the time. So if we think how much we love ourselves, if we think how powerful we are, how limitless we are, how unstoppable we are, and what is our passion and what is our purpose in life, it is going to propel you, right? And so I tell people, if you don't set your mind, your recordings will. And so your parents and whoever you were around, gave you the recordings that you exist today. So you drove here today. You didn't think about driving because it's already inside how to get here, right?
Right.
But if you really were conscious and mindful and intentional about, be different, right? So we need to be conscious, mindful, and intentional about how we're going to live life today. And you have to think about the words that you say to yourself. Are they elevating your frequency or berating your frequency? And so, like in our office, we have an intentional group, and we talk about in that everyone sets an intention for the group. And so that is invaluable, because we need to all be beacons of light and love every day. And the world would be a great place if we all thought about that, right?
Yeah.
Then today, because we need to purify our bodies, so I use different things, but the things people can do at home is an Epsom salt bath with baking soda and clay. So if people don't have infrared sauna, that's what I tell them to do. And then I tell people that get sunshine. Sunshine activates the photoreceptors in your cell. And so we have this unfortunate people avoiding the sun, but we need the sun to live. And it's amazing how many people say, oh, my life completely changed when I really tried to get sunshine every day. And that is without sunscreen. So because sunscreen prevents, turning on your little photoreceptors in your cell. So get sunshine. And I give it directions, and it's in my book too. I talk about cleaning your liver. So you can use castor oil. Castor oil is the wonder oil. You can put castor oil on any part of your body. You could do it on your hair to grow hair. You can do it on a thyroid if you have thyroiditis or thyroid nodules. You can put it on your liver, your pelvis, any part of your body. And it is an old, way of taking care of your body, because castor oil detoxifies the body. It helps the immune system and decreases inflammation in the area. The other thing is a liver flush. A liver flush, there's lots of different liver flushes out there. So mine is pretty simple. You start at 6 p.m. You do Epsom salts and vitamin C. Then before you go to bed, you do organic grapefruit juice and olive oil, go to bed, and you do the vitamin C and Epsom salts again, because our liver now is bombarded with an overwhelming exposure of toxicity. And you can tell because fatty liver is about 35% of the population. And medical doctors don't really warn patients about fatty liver because why? Because there's not a medicine for fatty liver. Fatty liver you treat by changing your eating, maybe modified fasting, liver protection with herbs and different things like that. And then you've got to clean out your liver. You got to do liver flushes. So it's a great way because your liver has 500 different functions, and it is constantly taking care of you to purify, detoxify the body. And so it's a necessary practice to do today. All right. The other things, if you can afford an infrared sauna or the conventional heat saunas, there's nothing better than investing in your health and doing infrared sauna. Infrared sauna, they say if you do 6 days a week, you can reduce mortality 50%. Okay, there's nothing that does that. So, but the poor man's way is to do the baths of Epsom salts, baking soda, and clay.
Is there something specific about the infrared sauna?
Yeah, well, the infrared, it's the healing wave of energy. It basically, when you heat, first of all, you have 3 heat shock proteins, 27, 72, and 90. Those kill viruses and cancer. So heat therapy is great for everyone. Plus, you're increasing the circulation, increasing nitric oxide. You're neutralizing electromagnetic fields, which are abundant everywhere, right? And then heat is the infrared helps dance with the chemicals to pull them out of your body. So there is something, very beneficial. If you look in Europe, they have, I was in Baden-Baden speaking in 2019, and here they have all these spas, and they all have heat and waters and all kinds of things, and that's where people go after work. And so each day I went to a different place, but it was a place of community and a place of healing. And I know those kinds of things are, going to be changing in the U.S. because I've seen in the news like these places are happening. And I think there's probably nothing better than having communities of healing. And because we can all help each other, like whether it's cooking and meditation, every kind of thing. And I think that's kind of where we're headed. We're always talking about the next AI, okay, and the next technology. But if you look, that isn't really helping us advance, right?
Yeah.
That's not helping us really elevate ourselves and be, highest performance, right, of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it starts with you and the miracle that you have, and everyone has a divine genius. And if we allow technology to take over our thinking, we never are going to get to understand who we really are and the genius within us. Because AI always has a goal, right?
Yeah.
So, but what about you?
Yeah.
You have the innovation. You have the creativity to, be better than AI, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's this whole inner world that I feel like people don't slow down nearly enough to tap into and to experience, and like the richness of life that exists just within your own thoughts and the actions that you take every single day. And there's just, I think, a spiritual aspect to the health stuff that you're talking about, from whether it's a healing perspective or getting healthier and living a healthier life, that, there's so much already baked into who you are that's miraculous. That's, the fact that we're even here having this conversation, it's like profound. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, intentionality, mindfulness, and awareness, and like how much of that actually ripples through our life. If we lead with that, how much better is every decision that we make?
Right. And we've gotten away because what we're doing is we're paying attention to all that stuff out there.
Distraction.
And I'm not saying, because there are some good things, there are some really good things that can be in technology, but we also need to have quiet time and live in the present moment, because we're always, like you said, caught up in the hastening aspects of life. And we're always in a hurry and always got to do this and always. And we need to learn the art of nothingness and like do reflection of what was our day like? What was the highlight of the day? What were you thankful for today? And I agree with you about spirituality, because we have gotten away from that because we're thinking that something is going to make us happy. But we make happiness from within. And we are responsible for making ourselves happy, not having something, having the latest car, the latest shoes, latest handbag, whatever it is. That doesn't make you happy. Yes, it can make you temporarily happy. But I think if you just realize the miraculous world, like I drove up and I was like, oh my God, look at those trees. That is like perfect place to be in all those trees. And Texas has all those beautiful trees. And I was like, oh, you could just sit in there and relish in the oxygen and the mysterious nature of those trees talking to you. So like just that, like nobody really, like, sometimes I live close to the ocean and it's so vast. And you're like, look, those waves, they have their own individuality. And each wave is doing something different. And I live in California, so it's different all the time.
Right.
And so it's like, and you just look at the beauty, and I'm just in a small area. And if you just look at the beauty every day of the majestic world we live in, it's it's awe.
Yeah.
And if people, like one of my doctor friends wrote about the eye the other day in his email. And if we just looked at our anatomy, he talked about the eye and how the eye was actually the window to the soul. And the eye has this beautiful circulation and how it's critically important that we take care of our eyes. And we don't even think about that, right?
Yeah.
We just wake up and we automatically work, right?
Most people will live their entire life never thinking about that.
Yes. And if you think about the anatomy of the eye and how beautiful, but the eye is connected to the rest of your body, right? And so you have to look at your body as this entire holistic system, that everything is connected. And that when people go see the doctor, they go, oh, my foot hurts or my stomach hurts or something hurts. But we always want to give a medicine, a pill for every ill. But we know that doesn't work because we're not fixing the entire body. Is it because you have a food allergy, your stomach hurts? Is it because you ate something bad last night? Is it because you're stressed? We need to analyze and take a deep dive. But we have to think that each part is a part of a whole, and that every single cell is working in community to take care of you.
I think you're hitting on some points that are, I think, easy to overlook in this world that we live in, where it's, everything feels very industrialized and in a vacuum. We're trying to solve all of these individual problems within the body with a specialist who has one specific skill set in terms of like what they're going to be able to prescribe you or the surgery they're going to be able to give you. But even tying this back to your thoughts on just like living in awe and living in wonder, like I had a tweet about this the other day, just we live in these cities now where we don't see the stars in the galaxy anymore. But if we lived under the stars like we used to, our eyes would see the vastness that we live in, and also see like the little aspects of our body, like that small atoms, cells, particles that make us up, and realize that the vastness and those like small micro cells that make up our entire existence are all interfacing at once. And this goes back to something you said before we even hit record, which is that every single intention, every single choice that we make is making us healthy or not. So I think there's something to just like really pulling back, and just it makes, at least gives me like more of a reverence for the care that I should be giving to myself and my body, like knowing that this is a N of one, and the world that we live in is amazing and our bodies are miraculous.
Right. You talked about the N of one because people always ask me about statistics. Like, okay, what are the statistics for this? And I go, well, first of all, you are not a statistic. You are N of one. You're your own clinical trial. And every single thing that you're doing, every single day, everything that you're doing and everything thought that you're thinking is becoming you. And you're living in and of this world. And you're not controlling the petri dish you're living in. That's why you need to know what's in the petri dish you're living in, because that is something you can control and influence, right? And so because I was preparing for my talk tomorrow, which is going to be merging conventional medicine with functional medicine, and how you can have the same pathology as someone else. You could have the same birth date, the same pathology, the same everything on pathology. But every individual's an original when it comes to cancer. Obviously, that's also the case with humanity. There is no one like you, okay? And so that's why one size fits all treatment doesn't work for cancer, or actually for any other disease. Are there some commonalities? Yes. But if you read the book Radical Remission, 8 of the 10 things that the patients did had nothing to do with what the doctor told them, right? It was emotional work, diet, coffee enemas, different things like that. And so everyone is looking, and we're programmed to think that this pill is going to save you and fix you. But really, pharmaceutical drugs are the first or third leading cause of death, depending on who you read. And so we need to get away that there's a drug for everything that you have. Now, there is a place in emergencies for medications, but the long-term use of medication should not be your option to fix yourself, because every medication is a toxin, okay? Every medication has 1,000 side effects. Every medication is somehow affecting your mitochondria, which are the powerhouse engines of your cell. And the body has, and this is our whole thing we're talking about, it can miraculously heal, giving it the right nudges in the right direction. And so we all are looking for the panacea, and everybody wants easy, quick, fast. And I tell every patient, I don't have anything easy, quick, fast. I haven't seen it in my lifetime. Everything, we were talking about this last night with a group of young people, would be like focus on your hard, okay? Meaning the things you don't like doing in life. But I'm like, no, what you need to think, because hard is, this is hard, is like, that's negative. I'm up for the challenge. I'm up for the opportunity. I'm open for the growth. I'm open for the information. I'm open to the wisdom that life is going to give me today. And I have the tendency today, sometimes I'll go, oh God, today I had the worst day because of this, that, and the other. And then it was really, what am I going to learn and grow from this? Every interaction teaches you something, right? Yeah. And I think if we just would look at how every decision you make is making your life, whether it's your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. Like, I make it a point to read something spiritual every single morning. And I grew up Catholic. I went to, a Catholic elementary school, and then I went to all-girls school. I played the organ for church. And I look how profound effect that had on me today. Today, I don't go to Catholic church. I feel like religion is what you do every day. How are you ministering to the world and to each person every day? How are you helping them? How are you making a difference in anyone's life? And that's what matters.
Yeah, I think what you just unpacked there is like it's very Christ-like, where I think Christ was very opposed to the institutionalization, the Pharisees in the religious structures.
Correct.
But on a day-to-day basis, if you can create friendship that moves people towards love and giving people space to, be themselves, be broken, be, just people. I think that there's something special in that. And I think like religion has kind of lost or forced people out of these important topics of spirituality. Like, we are spiritual beings, but I think religion has turned a lot of people away. And I think what you're saying is really great. It's like, there's so much more to it that's, outside of the walls of an institution.
Right. And I think I really think that sometimes people need institutions.
Definitely.
I think they need it to lead their life. And but you're right, people are getting away from that kind of, like, got to go to church. And I think there's a whole resurrection going on with young people in that regard, and doing it in a different way. But it's really, religion is how you bind your life to what you are doing, okay? And you can every day minister to someone. It doesn't matter what you do. It is literally absolutely no difference with any job. I don't care if you're the postman, the doctor, the grocery store teller. Like, I was a grocery store checker long time ago, and I knew all my customers. And I grew up in a time, though, like, everybody like talked to each other, and you had relationships all the time. Right. And so there wasn't obviously computer, and everybody's not on their phone and everything, right? And so when I go to Whole Foods, I always comment like, okay, they don't even say hi to you, It's
like head down.
The head down and like nothing. And so I always make it a point to say hello, how are you? And we need to get back to connection. Yeah. And we need to be connecting with humanity every single day.
Yeah, we talk about, I've heard a lot of people talk about the loneliness epidemic, and in my mind, when I think about that, I think about someone sitting in their apartment alone. But the loneliness epidemic is actually what you're talking about, where it's you're around people and you still feel alone because you're not looking each other in the eye. You're not holding the door. You're not shaking someone's hand. And you said something earlier about just encouraging other people, like the intention room in your office, I think it was, where you guys, are speaking life into each other or having those moments. And there's something so healing about like just having a warm experience with somebody, whether it's just a gentle hello or like actually encouraging somebody to, step out, be more comfortable in themselves. Like there really is something healing in that I think this loneliness epidemic, I would love to see humanity restore the human to human connection in those little moments. 'Cause I think it's a lot of the fabric that keeps us going, keeps us happy, keeps us content, and giving us that joyful spirit in life that lets us, go do things in a positive way.
Yeah, you're right. Because I forget which Surgeon General wrote a book about loneliness, and they talk about it now. And like you were saying, we are a connected, disconnected society. Because people think they're connected when you text and your email. And I always tell my operations person, don't email them, don't text them, go down and personally deliver the message.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Because we've gotten to, and yes, I think there's some convenience, obviously, in having a phone, and technology can be used as a tool, but it can't consume your existence. And yes, I get good information. If I want to read a scientific article, I can easily access that, right? But there is the authenticity of the human connection is so undervalued, and people don't realize that all of our cells are vibrating at frequencies. For example, you're sharing the frequency of yourself with me today. Yes, you're talking to me, but you're also an energetic being. And a lot of us don't understand that because that's not something we were taught. But if you look at your heart is an electrical rhythm. That's why they do an EKG. And then if you do an EEG of the brain, that's an electrical rhythm. And then if you look at how they do nerve conduction studies, it's all about the electrical rhythm of those muscles. And if we are really giving ourselves medicines through frequencies, right? Just you and I exchanging, okay? And that's why hugs are so important, because you've just deposited your frequency into someone else. And so, and we've, like I said, we're all in our separate little places, and that's why community is the guru of the future. And that 1 + 1 is 3. And we need to really revitalize that. That's why, when you talk to your friend who you haven't seen, but when you go to see them in person, it's a whole different interchange, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like if you and I were doing this on Zoom, it would be a lot different than what it is right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I think what's interesting about all the things that you're talking about, you've talked about some like practical things like sleep and eating the right foods, food is medicine, your environmental toxins, and then kind of this relational community aspect of being healthy. Most of these things it's free. There's not someone who's necessarily looking to make like a fortune off of you, telling you to sleep more and move your body. It's free, and it really comes down to like the commitment that you're willing to take to invest in this way of living, promoting a healthier lifestyle. I'm kind of curious how, as a cancer specialist, you see all of this stuff tying into your field, your domain of integrative wellness, but also specializing in cancer.
Right. So we do, the Center for New Medicine side is human optimization and chronic illnesses like diabetes and hormone problems and autoimmune problems and Lyme and mold and all that kind of stuff. And then I had the Cancer Center for Healing, and that started probably, I don't know, I was thinking about it today, about 18 years ago. No, probably 16 years ago, something like that. And I got into this field because my mother was pregnant with me. I don't know if you know my story. I don't know if you've read.
A little bit, but
yeah,
I
so
would
it's
love to hear it
interesting.
more.
I'm number 3 of 6 kids, and my mother started bleeding, and she went to the doctor, and they administered a drug called DES, diethylstilbestrol. That was a drug used in the 50s. It was actually used for 40 years. And then when I'm a teenager, my parents get a letter saying, oh, that drug causes hormone problems, anatomical problems, infertility problems, and cancer, and both male and female offspring. So I went to MD Anderson, which is probably one of the largest cancer institutions in the world. And of course, as a young teenager, it's the most daunting, scary thing you could possibly imagine because there's 12 people coming in your exam room. So that sparked like, wow, I've got to do something about this. I've got to question everything. Why did this happen? And it really catapulted me into where I am today. And fortunately, I had these mentors who also were in my path at the right time, right place to enlighten me about how I need to look at the human frame. And then my own personal experiences. Okay, I never had 2 periods in a row in my life. My babies are all like I call it, advanced babies. Okay, I went through lots of different things to do what I, do today. And so my journey started really early. It wasn't like, okay, I'm 50 and I got sick and found ozone, This started a long time ago, and I have had to research and go down lots of rabbit holes for myself and for my patients. And I always am saying, what am I going to tell the patient that's going to help the patient? Okay? So I don't want to give my patients more injurious immunosuppressive substances, right? I need to create health with them. I need to create health in them. And that's what I do. Doctor means to teach, to educate. And so I teach my patients, whether it's a spiritual situation, emotional, or physical, because they're all intertwined, and you have to address all that when you see a patient. You can't just say, oh, okay, what's physically going on? Okay, and then see you later, bye.
Yeah.
I need to know, how is this person really living? So I always ask my patients about everything in their life, their sleep, their water, their eating, their movement, and their stress. And everything plays a part. And they need your wisdom and advice, not just on how to eat, but also how to navigate the stressful situation. And I had one of my patients, I thought it was really funny. He is seeing me for a brain tumor. And it's not glioblastoma, it's an astrocytoma, which is a different kind of cell. And so he's probably in his mid-40s, and his wife always comes in. She was on the phone this time. And so this was my 3rd visit with him. And he's really getting healthy, and he's telling me he's lost, 35 pounds, and he's doing this and that. And he says, I feel so much better. I can't believe how much better I feel. And he got his MRI results, and he's like, oh, they said things are improved. And so I said, this is great. And then I'm asking him about sleep and watering, and I get to stress. And I said, so tell me what your biggest stress is. And he goes, my 2 boys. And I go, how old are they? 9 and 12. And I said, what stresses you about your boys? He goes, they're fighting. And I said, do you know that is a sign of love and affection? And that's part of how boys grow up. And I said, but if it really irritates you, calmly say, you guys, if you guys want to do that, take it outside. Or tell the boys, get on the ground and do 10 push-ups with them and do it with them.
Mm.
And I said, but that is not something that should be stressful for you, because I'm one of 6 kids and we fought and almost killed each other every day. Okay?
It's battle.
It's battle. I mean, but that's like a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It germinates resiliency. It just creates all these survival techniques in you. And so, like, it completely changed now how he views his 2 boys.
Isn't that crazy?
And that's just crazy.
A perspective shift just lowers his stress.
Yes. And he was so, like, he and his wife were like, the wife is saying, did you hear that? Did you hear that? So life is all how we look at it, right? All the time. And that these rules just don't apply to what patients. They apply to me. You know, I'm a real person too. And I always have to look at the glass half full instead of empty, right? And so we all can help each other look at things. But I've already had kids. I have grandkids now. And growing up in a big family, also you learn how to survive, because that's, there was 3 girls, 3 boys, and oh boy, it was 3 killings every day, But it was fun, and we're all alive now today and love each other, right?
Love to tell the stories.
To tell the stories about our nicknames. I mean, hair pulling, pinching. I mean, you name it. And my brothers, they were, wrestling, fighting. I mean, all kind of things. But it's just part of life.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something special about growing up in a bigger family. I'm one of 4, and like, there's just the dynamic of having other people your age as you're growing up who are like, you're just like constantly interfacing with and learning from and struggling with, and those childhood memories of fighting for no reason and looking back on them years later and being like, it just kind of forms you.
It's so true.
Learning how to deal with conflict.
Yes, right. And then and actually, I was with my niece last night, and she's like, I don't know, in her 40s. And she was telling me she had a spat with her on Easter with her other sister. And I said, that's a time for growth. Because if there's no conflict, when do you really get the microscope out and analyze everything, right?
Totally.
Conflict creates resolution, solutions, and love, really.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And because if you just go through life in a straight line, I mean, okay, there's no adventure.
Yeah.
There's no growth. Growth comes when there is difficulty. Difficulty forces you to raise to a higher level.
Yeah, it's really a blessing. And I love what you're saying about stress and the perspective shift, because stress really is how we're internalizing something happening to us. Like for some people, they can't get in front of a group of people and give a presentation because they get so stressed out and their stress levels are through the roof. Some people even physically have reactions to having to even think about standing in front of a group of people and speak. And then you have people who can do it naturally. And there's really, when it boils down to it, it's just one difference, which is like one person is viewing all the negative criticisms, the downsides, the fears, the doubts, and they're feeling that in the moment. And then the other person is looking the other direction. Like they're just not even looking or paying attention to those feelings of fear and doubt.
Yeah. And what is it causing that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a totally different perspective. Like it's like a camera lens looking in a totally different direction. But one person is having a terrible experience, stressed out, and the other person is relaxed. And it's cool that we can train our bodies and our minds to work together to not feel these things, these stressors, like when the kids are fighting. Like obviously, maybe there should be a reaction to some extent, but should it make you very stressed out and derail your day? Probably not.
No, yeah. Well, we all have to learn how to be flexible and adaptable because life every day. You know, what's that famous guy, Heracles, says change is a constant. And it is true. And a lot of people, they go, oh, they don't like change.
Yeah.
But look at change as an opportunity to meet someone else, do something else, learn something else, have a new revelation in your life. I mean, so much. Instead of, you know, like I know that sometimes patients can't see me and they see one of the other doctors that's been trained. But look at that as like, wow, I always see Dr. Connealy, but this other person can give me invaluable direction also. And at whatever, you know, I always tell people, whatever I don't know, I know 10 people to call and figure out the puzzle because we're all a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about, you know, the pillars of health, so to speak. And today, because there's just an epidemic of chronic illness, everyone needs to really take charge of themselves and evaluate and do some self-examination. How can I be a better version of ourselves? And the reason that's so important is that we're inter and intra-connected, just like our cells. And that what you do affects me and what I do affects you. And if we both can be valuing the same things, then we are creating extreme potency for all of us, right?
Yeah.
And just like if someone's sick in the family, right? Everybody gets sick. But if we really focus on health as a very important value, then you have synergy and harmony in that community. And we really all need to understand that all of us are affecting the whole.
Wow. Is there anything that you like in just how you view health from a cancer perspective, like cancer rates are on the rise, like female cancer rates are on the rise. Are these, like, does that tie into what you're saying around this idea that like what one individual doing is affecting another?
Yes. Well, today's world, it's kind of interesting because I ponder like what's going on.
Right.
Because cancer is 1 in 2 people now.
That's so crazy.
And breast cancer is rising, which we should be able to prevent, okay? And our medical system is not preventive, proactive, precise, participatory. It's none of those. And it needs to be all of that. And so doctors, health practitioners need to say to their patients, how are we going to prevent cancer? Okay. But that's not, that is not the goal, really. We have a real robotic conveyor belt in medicine and all the screening tests, like probably for you, someone your age, there's no screening, correct? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Absolutely nothing for a man. The first time there is when you get a Cologuard or colonoscopy at 45, but colon cancer rates are even in the 30s now. And then a PSA they don't really even do. That's the prostate-specific antigen. Now, I would do it in a patient just to get a baseline.
Right.
But there is no screening for a young man, right? And for a young woman, the only screening really are pap smears. But wait, there's all these other organs, right?
Right.
And so I think if people want to prevent cancer, read everything about prevention, all right? Now, my book is probably the best book. There are other books out there. But read about everything about what you can do to empower yourself. Then, if you've been diagnosed, with cancer, don't just listen to the surgeon and the oncologist. You need to have a quarterback who is taking care of your entire body and is preparing you for a biopsy, because a biopsy is a surgical wound. It's breaking a capsule. It's doing things to the body. It creates this whole cascade of reactions. So we need to be proactive about that process. Now, I know it's not, but I'm just telling you it should be, right? Like I have a whole biopsy protection protocol, okay? Then if you need to do surgery, what are the protective measures I need to do? Because it's injurious, immunosuppressive, right? And inflammatory. And then you need to like read and study everything about what is going on, okay? And if you see an oncologist, you need to have that oncologist be a partner with you and say, okay, what is the good, bad, and the ugly? What are all my options? Now, when you go to oncologist, he or she's going to tell you, okay, you need these medicines, right?
Right.
But you know that that isn't the only thing that you should be doing. I mean, you may not know, but I'm telling you, there are many other things that you should be doing,
Right.
okay? And now we are all talking about it. I mean, if you think about it, it's this podcast, it's this Instagram, it's this other podcast. We're all talking about creating health, right? And functionality. And so look, and if you see 5 books say the same thing about sauna or a bath or a liver cleanse, there must be some validity to it, right? And so, but look at all the options. And I tell every patient, don't just take my word. Go and really research everything I'm telling you. Now, I'm telling you from lots of research and experience, but go validate for yourself what I am saying, okay? Go talk to people who have done conventional but married it with all the new latest, techniques, whether it's cold plunge, sauna, sunlight, liver cleanses, coffee, all the other things that are out there to get well.
Yeah.
And so I think, people, of course, are in shock. And also people say cancer saved my life because it changed their whole life about how they look at life.
Right.
Because what they have to do, they had to stop and say, what is going on? And because from one cancer cell to a detectable tumor in conventional world is 8 to 10 years.
Wow.
Okay. So that means we have 8 years of opportunity. Think about it. So many years of opportunity to create a healthy, viable being.
Now, could you kill that? Could that cell die through lifestyle changes?
Through lifestyle changes, yes. You're turning on cancer cell death or you're not, depending on your entire being, from your thoughts to your food to every single thing that you're doing in your life, right? And so we have the opportunity. Now, I know a lot of physicians and practitioners. When I say practitioners, I'm talking about, naturopaths and acupuncturists, and there's lots of different varieties of healthcare practitioners. And I've taught many people, okay? It's not like I haven't taught a lot of doctors how to do this, but it's out there if you research it and try to find it, okay? And how to be preventive and proactive and precise about your life. And then really, it's so much easier. There's an old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like, we were talking earlier, it just doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Right? You think, like you're thinking probably right now, you're a young dude. My life is good. I'm good as gold, right? That's what you think.
Totally.
But I always tell people, like, verify that.
Yeah.
Okay, just verify it. And it doesn't cost that much to really, like, verify. Like, okay, I'm good. Okay. Because once you get a diagnosis, whether it's heart disease, cancer, there's never like a magic pill. There's no magic pill for heart disease. There's no magic pill for cancer. There's no magic pill for autoimmune. There isn't, okay? You've got to get rid of all the thorns and all the things that are bothering your cells so they can take care of you. So you got to do that. And so thinking a pill is going to solve your life is not the answer. So, for example, if I diagnosed you with blood pressure today, I can easily give you a pill. But what is that pill going to do to you, short term and long term? And then why wouldn't I say, look, let's do these lifestyle measures. Now, granted, if your blood pressure was high, I'd give you a pill and say, okay, Harry, we're going to figure this out. And, is it because you don't sleep? Is it because you're stressed through, the roof? Is it because you don't exercise? Is it because you need magnesium? Is it because you have heavy metals? I mean, what is going on that is creating this? So anyone who has anything going on, there are 100 reasons that you need to be investigating and researching it. And there is so much information out there today. Now, I know it's hard for people to sort out a lot of information because we're in information overload.
Yeah, so
that is for sure. Okay. But I think if you talk to a person who's doing things a long time, because it does take time to learn everything and experience, right? And I have a lot of experience seeing patients, and I learn literally every day.
And someone who's putting it into practice as well. I think that's really
contextually
important.
Exactly. And so like you there are some basic, like I said, basic tenets of health that we all have to follow. And I'm not saying perfection is a goal, because that is not the goal. It's trying to achieve human excellence every day is what your goal should be. All right. In every facet of your life. All right. Whatever it is, your work, your personal self-care. And because it begins and ends with that.
Yeah.
Literally, a doctor can only do so much.
Definitely.
Right? And if a doctor, all he or she has in her armamentarium is to give a pill, that, trust me, that's not, that they should be telling you, oh, here's what other things you should be doing.
Yeah.
Okay. If they're just giving you a pill, then that's not really, that's only part of the answer if you need a pill for an emergency situation.
Right. Yeah, it should be
But we should be looking at the etiology and what are all the causes I need to learn and know to take care of myself. So relying on the medical system, it's good. In the United States, there's nothing better than emergency medicine in the United States. But that's for people who get in a car accident, fall off a ladder, broke their arm in a sporting accident. But it's not for the chronic care management, because the emergency rooms don't have the energy, time, or resources to take care of a chronic medical problem. That's what your primary care doctor needs to be doing. And now the emergency rooms are flooded with chronic care management, but it's all about how we got to teach people health. That's what we have to do, is we've got to teach people health, and we all need to take our responsibility, right? We all have our own self-responsibility to master self-care.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's very empowering to the individual, which I feel like is so important for this message to get out, that the individual should take ownership and responsibility of the one body that they've been given responsibility to take care of. And I think I have hope, because there's wearables that are growing. Like, these tools are growing in the sense that more people are using them. There's more awareness around kind of tracking and taking care of yourself from a preventative standpoint. But it's still, I feel like we're such a far way away from where we should be. And I still feel like the information wars are difficult. Like, people with your level and your insight of experience from a functional standpoint are rare to find. Like, people who are trying to empower their patients to be the CEO of their own health are tough to come across.
I think that's true because that's what patients tell me, number one. But number two, I think doctors have been indoctrinated in a system. And when I went to medical school, yes, you have to learn the basics. You have to. And you need to know how to use medications because there is a valuable role in medications. If you had cellulitis, I would need to give you antibiotics, right? So you really need to know how to utilize.
Right.
But then why did you even get cellulitis is the real problem.
Yeah, let's get to the root cause.
Let's get to the root cause of what's going on here. And that's where medicine fails. You're on this robotic conveyor belt. Oh, you have cellulitis, antibiotics, see you later, bye.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember I had a girl, young girl, 30-something years old, came to see me years ago because she had methicillin staph-resistant aureus, which is the MRSA, that infection that spreads.
Oh, wow.
And she'd had it 3 times, but no one asked, like, why. So she came to see me, okay? She had vitamin D deficiency. She had elevated sugars, hemoglobin A1C, and she had elevated C-reactive protein inflammation, and she had some hormonal tweaking. I fixed that. She never had an episode again. And she said, I wish I would have known easily what to do, in the beginning.
Right.
And she's only 30. That's only 30-something years old. It's not like she was 70 years old.
Right. Oh my
and
gosh.
So some of these basic things, but doctors have to now learn conventional medicine with new functional integrative medicine, which is combining the best of what you learned in medical school and training and then learning this new delivery of medicine that's being birthed.
Yeah.
And it's being birthed out of necessity because we're the world's leaders in chronic illness. Okay, but we have what? All the technology?
Yeah. We're spending all this money.
And you're spending all this money?
Yeah.
And we're, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results.
Right.
And so, and it's interesting. I see patients tell me all the time now, they go, they tell me, we weren't trained in that. They tell the patient, we weren't trained in that. But there's courses now everywhere. I mean, I'm going to be speaking at a conference this weekend on integrative cancer care. And there's going to be the best people, whether it's saunas, dentistry, medicine, eating, everything, okay? And so doctors can go and learn. And there's all kinds of functional medicine conferences. Yes, it's overwhelming. But again, little by little, you have to spoon feed yourself, just whether you're a doctor or not a doctor.
Right.
And fortunately, I've had the beauty of starting lifestyle medicine 39 years ago. And my patients ask me questions like, Dr. Connealy, do you know about this? And everything they came in to tell me, I would go research.
Right.
And then that springboarded me into solving more problems.
Right.
And then I'm always on an insatiable quest of information. I mean, it's something like every day. I don't waste a minute that I don't learn something. Okay? Because I was telling my niece last night, like, life is no dress rehearsal. Yeah. You need to make every day, every moment in your life worthwhile. And I tell every young person that because they don't realize, how valuable their life is and how you're not supposed to just an impact on other people, but how can you impact yourself?
It's so good. You were talking a little bit earlier about screening, and I feel like it forced me to pause for a second because I feel like I do all these things that add up to a healthy lifestyle, but I haven't gone and I've done blood work, but I haven't gone and really sat down and done a proper screening for different cancers and things. What sort of screening should people be looking at for cancer prevention?
Okay, so a couple of things that I use. So blood tests can tell you certain things, like if you have elevated C-reactive protein, which is the nonspecific marker for inflammation, because you're not supposed to have inflammation. Inflammation is the precursor to all diseases. And so you can easily, now today, you can order your own blood test, but there's Superpower, which I think you're familiar with, that they do a screening, a preliminary blood screening, but it's comprehensive, okay? Then you look at your vitamin D levels, and then hemoglobin A1C, which is a reflection of your sugar over 90 days. So we know that elevated blood sugars weaken the cell, every single cell. So prediabetes and diabetes are exploding. In fact, I read one statistics that 95% of the population has a metabolic dysfunction. Okay, that's a problem, all right? So your cells are automatically weakened if your blood sugar is high. It's actually an aging marker. So then I will check hormones. I check always on young people. I check hormones on everyone. Thyroid hormones. Thyroid, if you're low thyroid, that will predispose you to disease and cancer. If you have low DHEA sulfate is the hormone of stress, immune, and longevity. It's the number one hormone made by your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys like little hats, and they make over 100 hormones, DHEA being the most prevalent hormone. So like at your age, you should have a DHEA sulfate of 300 to 400, all right? So if it's not, then there's things you can do to fortify your adrenal gland. You don't want to just take DHEA because then you're going to miss the other 99 hormones. So you want to fortify your adrenal glands. And then I use a comprehensive blood test, which is really not that expensive. I can do a comprehensive for $250, okay? It's very, I would say,
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, right? Then there is a liquid biopsy. A liquid biopsy, I use the lab RGCC. They're a lab that's been around for over 25 years, and they are in Switzerland and Greece, and they do have a screening blood test called OncoTrace. And there's another one called OncoDeclare that will look for, the OncoTrace looks for specific circulating tumor cells. And then the OncoDeclare will look at for DNA mutations. Okay, so those are screening tools. Now the other,
are those blood draws?
They're blood draws,
Okay.
And they're not that expensive.
Really?
I think they're all less than $1,000, which is
Worth it.
worth it. There is one in the conventional world called Gallery, but I have not found that to be an effective tool. All right, there's another lab. I forget what they're called, but they're not quite as good as the longevity of RGCC. Now, another tool that I learned from a mentor of mine who had sarcoma, and I met him at an A4M anti-aging conference like 26 years ago, and you have acupuncture points all over your body. And acupuncture points are the wiring system of your body. And if you take every acupuncture point, it's like a wire or a string of pearls to your organs and glands. And so what we're looking at is what is the flow of energy or qi in Chinese medicine? You've heard of qi.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that your organ systems have energy, okay? And then we identify what blocks that energy. And I tell people, all the information I can get is worthwhile. So I'm always looking at things that I can gather information. Like you were talking about, we can do continuous glucose monitoring. Is it perfect? No, but it's got some valuable information.
Step in the right direction.
You've got the Oura Ring, you've got the wearable. Are they exact? No, but everything is information gathering, correct? Yeah. And it's all like, one of my patients told me, my HRV isn't good. What do I need to do to, correct it? So people didn't even talk about HRV, until now, right?
Right.
So, and that's an old thing, actually. It's old information, right?
Right.
But so information, so I look at the flow of energy flowing through, if it's good, what is blocking? Is it because you need to cleanse? Is it because you have fungal overgrowth? Now, there's lots of tests to do fungal overgrowth. Parasites also are a big problem today because of the changes in the world. There's more parasites. And then I look for imbalances in organs. And so that tells me it costs a couple $100, but between blood test, your physical exam, and talking to the patient and that, I can tell right away a lot of information.
Wow.
Okay. Now, other things that I like to check are your vitamins, minerals, and heavy metals. It's all in one test. It's looking at the intracellular analysis. That's a couple $100, okay? But if you have one nutritional deficiency, it's kind of a problem, right? And then I do another test that checks the voltage of your body. Every one of your cells emanates 0.07 millivolts of energy. And so I want to make sure that your cells have the energy to take care of you. So you should have about minus 25 millivolts of energy to take care of you. So if you don't have voltage, then your cells can't take care of you. And so this was discovered by a friend of mine, Dr. Jerry Tennant, and he is an ophthalmologist by training, and he was doing surgery, and the patient's secretions got into the doctor, and it caused encephalitis. And so he was sick for 5 years, sleeping 18 hours a day and 3 hours a day researching. And that's what he wrote a book called Healing is Voltage. And so one of the simplest things you can do to raise your voltage is go walk barefoot on sand or dirt or being the trees that you have right here.
Yeah. Or swim in the ocean.
You swim in the ocean, all these things, sunlight, running, being around running water. Being around nature is one of the best things to raise your vibrational frequency. Now, there are all kinds of gadgets, PMF, pulsed electromagnetic field. We have biomodulators, biocharger. There's all kinds of things that are available today to also raise your energy. But the simplest things is eating foods that have energy, right? Vital foods, all right? Being in nature, okay? You can start with there and getting sunshine. Those three things can, help your energy. So, and everything is about energy. Like your blood is circulating right now, and it knows exactly what to do, right? So you didn't tell your blood to circulate. You didn't tell your lungs to breathe, right? You didn't tell your heart to beat. There's an energy pulsating through every one of your cells that's taking care of you. And so we don't talk about that in medicine, right?
Right.
And so, but that's how your body is working right now, is it's got this innate energy that's taking care of you.
And we've talked about it a bit, but when given the right circumstances, the body's ability to heal should happen, or how do you kind of think about healing? I'm sure you've seen it thousands and thousands of times at this point, but some stories of people getting sick, going down this path of whether it's cancer or a metabolic disease, and then healing. I don't know. I'm curious, just your thoughts on the idea of giving the body the chance to heal.
Right, because the body does have the invincible ability to heal, giving the right direction, right? So it's interesting, when I talk to the cancer patients for their first visit, I always ask them, what was the first thing you did to change the course of your life? And I will tell you, the number one thing they said they did was they changed what they ate.
And these are people who healed themselves.
No, these are people that have been diagnosed.
They just got diagnosed.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that means they knew they were doing something wrong.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But because what changed? The only thing that changed was their diagnosis. But we can't live our life like that. We need to value human health today and what is it does that look like? What does that self-care look like, right? Instead, we have to get, something horrible happen, whether it's a heart attack, whether it's cancer, whether it's a stroke, whatever. That's what we have to get our attention to value our health.
Right.
We need to all value our health now. My son and his friends were going to go to Mexico, and one of my friends lives close to where they're going, and she's a physician, and they said they wanted to go see her because she does something called live blood cell microscopy. She looks at your blood under the microscope. And I said, you can't. I said, I think it'll be worthwhile for you guys, because they wanted to go and visit and do a health excursion. And I said, well, you can't go buy health on Amazon. So this would be a great investment for you guys to do. And so I think we don't think about investing in our health. And we need to look at it like that. We invest in everything else, but we don't take a 2020 look at our health. And we need to do that first, because it begins and ends with you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really does. The doctor, a health practitioner, guru can help you, guide you along, okay? And that's great and wonderful, because sometimes people need other people to help them and encourage them, right? And we should all be encouraging spirits to one another to help them in whatever way they need to, right? But we need to truly understand that health is earned, it's not given. And especially in this day and time, and I'm not trying to be a naysayer about health. Everyone can read the statistics, okay?
Yeah.
But this is our opportunity to look at the problem. Just like Robert Kennedy and the MAHA movement, he's been in this movement for, I don't know, probably 20 years, right? And he's worked with doctors and parents and all kinds of people, and he knows the statistics, right? And he's now trying to, broadcast it to the United States or the world. And so people are conscious of what's going on. And now, like, someone right now who has cancer, right? Yeah. You probably know someone right now who had heart disease, okay? But I am telling you, when I was your age, we didn't know anybody who had those illnesses.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about it, but not in a negative way.
Yeah.
But we need to look at it as this is an opportunity to elevate humanity and change the world and each individual, and germinate it with other people who have the same values and goals.
I love what you're saying. And I think that with social media, it's easy for this to feel like it's becoming a fear, like there's just so much fear around the current state of health and where we are. And I love the way you're saying this, where it's much more empowering. It's, hey, this is kind of the reality, but we have the tools. We know what to do if you're finding the right information. And it comes down to the fact, are you willing to slow down enough to see it for what it is and commit to being healthier in these day-to-day moments? And I feel like that really is such an empowering message.
Right, because fear is, remember, false evidence appearing real or intelligence unknown. And I don't want to be fearful. That doesn't do us any good.
Yeah.
But I think we all need to be in reality. And how can we change that? And I believe it's happening. I really, truly believe that the young people are the change makers. Yes, the older people are there that been there, the people that are in my age group. But we need the youth to really propel this movement. It needs to be a contagious movement in the United States.
So you're optimistic?
I'm very optimistic, because all the young people I see today, they all want to know. and they
Right.
all want to hear.
Mm.
And even my children's friends, and they're all asking questions and what can we do? And I think they're really seeing it, because it's interesting. I'll have a 55-year-old patient, and my daughter told me, I need to come see you. Okay, because the young daughter is saying. And so I had an 80-year-old patient the other day, but her daughter is 50 years old and said, Mom, you've got to go see her. The late woman has Parkinson's. And it's interesting. She's 80 years old, Parkinson's. And in one visit, and what I told her to do dramatically changed.
Wow.
Okay, the way she slept, the way everything, just a few little things.
Mm.
And she did them. I didn't do them.
Right.
The patients do it.
Right.
I'm just their partner in their care.
Right.
Right.
Mm.
And I see that in my office, that it's their community that everyone creates with one another. Mm. Because on the Cancer Center for Healing side, I have it all open so everyone can collaborate and talk to one another. Mm. And because we do need each other to get there, and we shouldn't be, disconnected with one another. We want to try to connect as much as possible. Mm. And, like you said, loneliness, and lots of people are talking about that. Mm. But we need to go back to the way things were a long time ago when, you went on walks together and you did all kinds of things together. Mm. And so that's why, like this meeting this weekend, it's iconic people getting together. Now, yes, there's going to be online because people have lives going on, but they're going to be still part of what's going on.
So great. What do you see your role being in all of this over the next 5 to 10 years? Because I do feel like we're in a moment in time where real change is happening in real time. And it's exciting to see 39 years of experience of helping people on display in a moment where we really need that experience of people who have helped people in the past and are, able to change perspectives and paradigms. So I'm curious kind of how you see the next 5 to 10 years for yourself.
Well, one thing is I love my job. I love the privilege of my job. And I think you need to be really on front lines, seeing patients every day because it's a reflection of what's going on. So I think I learn from the patient in front of me, but also I've trained a lot of doctors, and I'm constantly training practitioners, and I'm also constantly putting out on social media. I do every podcast I can because it's, my daughter always say, spray and pray. And I really want everyone to know what I know, the secrets of things I've learned over the years. And I don't know everything, but I know who the people to call that are the gurus too in medicine or whatever they are. And I want to continue to uplift humanity to be the best version of themselves. And I believe in humanity. I believe that we can do this. And I feel the movement. It's a little slower than I'd like, but I still feel this transformation. And I am just so, proud to be a part of it. And something, I've been really ringing the bell for a long time. And I feel like now I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And I have other people, you guys are doing what you're doing. We all have to play a part.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, so honored to be a part of this new. It's really a new birthing of a new way of taking care of patients.
Well, thank you for everything that you do. You're helping so many people, and I think the spray and pray approach to podcasting is really important because you're reaching groups that might otherwise not hear your message. So we're incredibly grateful that you came on our show, and just grateful for everything that you're doing, the information that you're putting out there, the teachings that you're embarking on giving to other people. It's really important work, and I don't think it should be understated, or it can't be overstated enough, that your work is just that important. So we appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you, learn more about what you're doing?
Well, I have an Instagram, Connealy MD, and then I also have a website, Connealy MD, that I talk about a lot of things. We have 2 clinics, Center for New Medicine and Cancer Center for Healing, in the same building. Anytime anyone wants to come and visit, take a tour, see what we're all about, we're always open to anybody coming to see, because once you see the clinic, you're like, it's Disneyland for medicine.
Game changer.
It's a game changer. Okay. And I am coming out with my second book, Cancer Revolution, updated this summer. So I want everybody to know what I know. Health is kind of a secret today. And I want people to know the things that I know. And because it can change your life. And I know that over these last years, patients have really transformed their life with not just me, because it's not just me. You know, I have this incredible team that helps me do this mission.
Well, thank you so much again for everything that you're doing. And we appreciate you coming on and look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.